It's your neighbor. You can later on come and take a picture of this from my notes if you want. That's all good. So I just want to look at the pattern here. Okay. So I'm gonna for a bit ignore this. I honestly just need the first version of each to be able to do cosine law. And here's what I mean by that. Let's say you don't need to copy this, you just need to follow right now. Let's say this triangle was called XYZ like that, which means that the opposite side has the lowercase letter of it, right? And let's say you wanted to solve for this side here. You identified that this is SAS. So on your study sheet, you will have for cosine law 2 instances. SAS, right? So let's say you know this side, and that's the angle between them. You will now say, okay, if I want that side, that's the one I'm trying to find, right? You put that up front. So you say x squared is equal to, it's going to be the other two sides squared and added. Right? That's as simple as that. If you want that one, you take the other two sides and square them and put a plus in between. Then you go minus 2 times z, like this first side you've used, times the second side you've used. And you got to finish it off with saying cosine of the angle that's across this side, which you will know, right? So cosine of x, right? So you shouldn't be too fixated with A, B, C. You should just look at the pattern, right? I'm trying to find that one, so that is what comes first. And then it's the other two sides squared and added, minus 2 times the first side, the second side, times cosine of x. Right? So that is the pattern I want you to observe. And that's what we're going to spend a little bit of time on right now. And then later we're going to do the side a bit more. So we're going to do both today. And it's important to identify that both of these cases, side angle side and side, you don't have a pair. So you can't use sine law. So from now on, you're going to have to choose, is it sine law or cosine law? You can't start with both. There's no way. It's either or, okay? But once you find stuff, then you can switch over to sine law or cosine law, whichever one you're more comfortable with. So let's go to 276. We already did that one. But today I'm going to shorten this a little bit. I'm not going to show this step right here, nor am I going to show this step up here. It's going to be 3 lines, folks, 3 lines. So let's go to 276, this example right here. Follow along, okay? Don't jump the gun. Don't go ahead of me just yet. Okay, just wait a little bit. Okay, so let's say we don't know that this is cosine. You're going to look at this and you're going to be like, there's no way I can get a pair, right? At this angle, I don't know that side. So, okay, it's probably cosine law, and just to make sure, I have side and the angle in between. So this is a side angle side scenario, right? So if you want to solve for this side here, you start with it. R squared is equal to, it doesn't matter which order, I'm going to take the 4.3, square that guy. I'm going to take the 6.5, square that. Make sure you have enough room because this is going to be a longer formula, right? And then I'm going to go minus 2 times the first side times the second side times cosine, the only angle you know, right? You can't go wrong with this. The only angle you do know is 61 degrees. So pattern, right? The 2 sides squared minus 2 times the first and the second, right? And then cosine of angle. So watch my second line. R is going to be square root of this whole thing. So let's see if we can do that. I want you to be able to type this in all in one shot. If you can't, I will help you. Like, depends on your calculator. Most of you should be able to do this in one shot. If you don't have a calculator, come and grab one, because I'm gonna do it with one of these ones. Anybody need a calculator? We all have one. Okay, so I'm gonna try this one first. So a lot of you have this type of calculator, which is a one-liner. So watch this. I go 4.3. This calculator does not have an x squared button. So it's the yx, y to the x. Right here where my finger is hovering over. I press that. You see that little hat? And then I go 2. So it's 4.3 squared plus 6.5 y to the x squared minus 2 times 4.3 times 6.5 times cosine of 61 degrees. It's all in one shot. And then I press equals. That is what I get. And I hope you get the same. If not, I will help you out. Okay, so don't despair just yet. Maybe just write it down. You never despair in my class. Just ask me, okay? Don't be scared to ask. I just can't read your mind, right? I don't know when you're struggling, when you're not. So, and now this calculator, I'm a little bit disappointed at this calculator, because every calculator should have a square root button just on its own, in my opinion. So I'm going to have to talk to Sharp about that. Anyways, this one doesn't, but if you look on top of that pi button, it has a square root button right there. So you have to access it by pressing second function in my calculator, or shift, and then press that one. And I think I can just press equal and get the answer. So that is 5.8 if you round it. So watch this. I'm going to do this for your notes. There's 3 9s and that keeps going. So I'm going to cut it right here. So that 9 bumps this to a 10, which bumps this to an 8. So it's actually 5.80. And we are in kilometers here. It's right. This is just a side length. We count. I know some of you can't do this in one shot, so you need to resort to this one here. My previous example on Monday, I actually figure out what 7.9 squared is. I square the second number, then I go 2 times this times this times this, subtract it, and then you come up with your answer there. It's a little bit more work. That's why if you spend 15 bucks on a good calculator, you will never regret it. Okay? That's that. Question. Do I have a pair now? Do you see the pair? This is now 5.8. You have a pair. You could now switch over to sine law and solve for whatever else using sine law. That's the cool thing. But at the beginning, there's only one. You can only use one or the other. Once you start finding something, then you have pairs. You can switch over to sine law if you like sine law more. Okay? Let's go. Let's keep going here. I want you to practice on these 2 questions here. On 277, find both of those are SAS cases if you look carefully. I'm giving it away already. So just practice what we've just done. Make sure you show those 3 lines minimum. You can do it. You just have to practice, okay? Ask the questions right there and then. So way to go. Yeah, don't be scared of big numbers. Like if these sides are big, the thing that goes in the square root is going to be big as well. But if your answer, like let's say you have 12 and 12 here, and you get like a couple hundred for this side, something is off, right? Like you should double check. So oftentimes it's you forgetting to square root, or you're just not entering it right. So in this case, y squared, I know a lot of you have done this already. So just follow along, doesn't hurt. You can actually correct me, that's also fun, right? Cosine of 41 degrees. I talked to you about your calculator, so I'm just going to go ahead and do this. You get, sorry here, I'm a little bit behind, 73.0531. I don't care how many you write in here. Just go at some point, just go dot, dot, dot. Then I know you're using all decimals. So this should give you, rounded correctly, 0.855. I think that one thing that I skipped here that I want, let's go back, okay, rewind. Look at this triangle first. Imagine this is like tomorrow or the next day and you're like, which one should I be using? There is no pair. All you have is side, another side, and the angle in between. This is side, angle, side, right? That's how you knew you had to use this version of the cosine law, the formula. And so we solved it. Next, the pond, bigger numbers. They're the same. I don't know if you noticed that. So this is technically an isosceles triangle. But right, side here, angle in between. This is also an SAS, right? Cosine law. That's what that really means. Use the cosine law. So I want to find this, give it a side, call it x or call it c, whatever. So x squared is 152 squared plus 152 squared minus 2 times 152. This is a lot of 152s, right? It's to throw you off a little bit, but that shouldn't. Okay, so x is equal to square root. I actually need to do this because I don't have this on my key right now. It's going to be a big number. Cosine of 80. So that's 38,184.065, and that keeps going. I take the square root of that, 195.41 meters. So I have that, 277. We're good? Big number, shouldn't scare us. Don't be scared. You have a calculator. Right? It could be millions, by the way. So don't let that throw you off. Next page. We'll leave that for a bit. I want to go to solving for angles using the cosine law. So get a highlighter here. Right, this is important. Solving for angles. If you're using solving for angles, then this is specifically only to this case. Right? You can only use cosine law to solve for an angle if you know all three sides. Okay? Let's see if you remember this. The only triangle that cannot be solved is the one where you know all three angles. Will you remember that? All three angles you can't solve for any sides, but all three sides is okay. If you ever get a triangle with all three angles, you can. You need a side minimum. Okay. Calculate the size of angle P. So they want this one here. How else can we refer to angle P again? Let's put this in bracket. Angle QPR. I want you to be comfortable with it, right? QPR. So QPR is the same thing as just angle P in this case. I will make a note here. Angle P is the largest angle since it is across, write these things down, they're very important down the road, since it is across the longest side. Page 278. So that's a note that I make right away, and you will see what happens here. There's something special that will happen here because of that. Not always, but in this case it will. So I'm going to solve for A over here. So start as close as possible over here because we're going to need this space. So A is going to be answered. I'm going to start right there. So watch how I'm going to start my formula. If you're trying to solve for an angle, you want to go cosine of that angle you're interested in, which is P, is equal to, you make a line like this. Anybody remember what goes up? The most important one is back here, minus P squared, okay? That side needs to be across. And then you take the other two sides. Let's make sure we know that this is lowercase p, this is lowercase q, this is lowercase r. Those are the three sides at play here. P has to go here, therefore q and r, q squared plus r squared will go here adding. That's the pattern. Put the side that's across your angle that you're trying to find has to go here. That's the only time it shows up. If you have a highlighter, I would do something like that if you have one. And then in the denominator, watch this. It's 2 times q, the first one here, just to help you remember, times r. Right? So q and r come back down here. This is the initial setup for cosine law. How do you know it's cosine law? Because it's side, side, side. You know it's cosine law. Specifically, you can only solve for angles because all three sides are already solved for. So let's keep going. Cosine of P, you actually plug in the sides now. So Q is 16.9, you got to square it, plus R is 21.6, you got to square it. Let me zoom into that so you don't squint too much. Okay. 16.9, that's Q, R is 21.6. By the way, it doesn't matter which one comes first between the other two sides. As long as you square and add, it doesn't matter. Minus P squared. Right? And then it's 2 times 16.9 times 21.6. And watch this. I do this right next to it. So figure out what the top is. So grab your calculator, figure out what the top is, and then do the denominator separately. We don't do it all in one shot. So 16.9 squared plus 21.6 squared minus 31.2 squared equals, what do you notice about your answer? It's negative. Never drop that negative. It's extremely important that you don't. Sine law, you will never have that problem. Cosine law, yes. Okay, so we actually go negative 221.27. And I will grab my highlighter, maybe a different color, so it doesn't. Okay. And now clear this on your screen, just clear it, right? Make sure everything is gone. The bottom is 2 times 16.9 times 21.6. And that's 730.08. It's okay to do the train here, because this thing is actually equal to this, okay? And now watch the second cosine of P. And this is where you need to be able to just know that if there's a negative here, you bring it down with you. You just make sure there's a negative there. And that, bless you, 221.27 divided by 730.08. I'm actually dividing those two numbers and I get this. Negative 3030. And again, has to start with a 0 or else you made a mistake. I'm going to use all decimals there. And what do you need to do to find an angle and trig? Second function, you need to use the inverse of cosine. A lot of students, they mix it up. They go inverse sine, right? No, it's inverse cosine in this case. So angle P is cosine inverse of negative 0.3030 dot dot dot. I keep that on my screen though. I never clear it. I have a bit of a problem though because of that negative. So how can, it depends on your calculator. My calculator, all I do is this. I multiply my answer by -1. And then it turns into a negative. You might have a plus minus button, right? You might have a plus minus button, in which case it's easier. You just press it and the negative will immediately appear. So now I got to go shift cosine of that negative, and it gives me 107.64. 107.64. What kind of angle is this? It's obtuse, right? Do you notice that? Obtuse angle, right? And just so you know, I could have told you that already. The minute, make an arrow go up to that negative there. Right? The minute you have a negative, it's not always going to be negative, but if you have a negative there, you are guaranteed an obtuse angle. Obtuse angle is bigger than 90. So anything bigger than 90 is obtuse. So not all questions will have that, but if it does, you are guaranteed an obtuse angle. Let's do another one right next to it. Probably fewer steps though now. Let me zoom out a bit. I'm going to do it right next to it. So I'm cutting this right about here. And we're going to answer question B here. It says, you got to read carefully, okay? Calculate the size of angle Q. So I'm going to go cosine of Q. The first side I'm going to write down on the other side is minus Q squared. And then the other one would be P and R, right? So P squared and R squared go there. 2 times P times R. You see that pattern? I hope you see the pattern. Okay. Next line, make sure you write cosine of that angle a couple times. So I will go Figure out P is 31.2 squared plus R is 21.6 squared minus Q, which is 16.9 squared. If you have a highlighter, I would probably say again, highlight the capital Q and lowercase q. Yeah. You could use sine law. Yes, Kim J has a good point because you now have a pair, right? Yes, but because I want to make sure you get the cosine law, I'm sticking with cosine law. That is a good point. 2 times 31.2, so you copy the first one here, and you copy the second one, but the side across that angle never shows up anywhere else. It just shows up once, up here, subtracting. That's a common mistake. Then I go cosine of q. Let's figure out what the top is and what the bottom is separately here. I think I don't need that much space. That should be probably good. So 31.2 squared plus 21.6 squared minus 16.9 squared. Look at that. That's a big number, right? 1,154.39. The bottom is 2 times 31.2 times 21.6. That is 1347.84. And I will write my decimal right next to it. No negative, correct? There's no negative, right? Just checking. So don't make it appear. Some students, they look at their study sheets like, oh, there was a negative. I'm just going to go, right, put a negative in there. Not always. So what kind of angle is this going to be? It's going to be an acute angle. Okay? A triangle can only have one obtuse angle ever, no more than one. Okay, let's get this decimal here. So 1154.39, oops, divided by 1347.84. That is 0.856, and I'm just going to go dot, 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 like that. Now it is. Here it comes, guys. Now you're ready to let go of cosine. Right? You don't have to have that angle symbol. I'm okay without. But you go cosine inverse of 0.856 dot dot dot. That's the step I want to see. So I go shift cosine equals 31.08. So we've used cosine law twice to figure that out. So I will say acute angle. It could be that there is no obtuse angle in a triangle, okay? So it could be, but sometimes you do have an obtuse. Yeah. The angle symbol. Oh, no. This is just for your information. Right? I don't know. Sometimes I'm assuming we all know, right? Greater than 90 degrees, right? Smaller than 90 degrees, right? That's basically where it's at. There's 90, there's greater is obtuse, smaller is so cute. I mean, acute. Anyway, there you go. Small little puppy, right? So there we go. So again, I want you to practice, and I want to come around and make sure you're okay, right? Zero risk right now. So go to the back side. I want you to try these two here. Do you notice what it says though at the top? solve each triangle, what does that mean? All angles, all sides, right? So if you have, these are side, 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 right? Side, 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 side. Which angle should you start with if you have a choice? Always do the largest first. The largest first. Where is the largest angle? Across the longest side, right? So this one, I'm taller than this. This one has this is the first one you would want to find. Don't ask me why. Right now, just have to trust me. You can switch over to sine law. As soon as you find that, you need to use cosine law to start off. As soon as you have that pair, switch over to sine law if you want. I actually appreciate that if you do it. I might not do it, right? But that's okay. Here, the largest angle would be R, right? It happens to be across the longest side. So go ahead and do that. Maybe just focus on finding the first angle using cosine law. That's right now what I want you to focus on. Solving the triangle, you do that after, okay? So go to town, show those steps, and I'll be back. I'm going to show you, like, if you want notation and all that to be right, this is how you would want to proceed, okay? Look at what I'm doing here. I'm looking at, okay, I have all three sides, side, side, side. I'm going to have that on my study sheet, right? Yes. Okay, so I want to solve for the biggest angle first. So I go cosine of x. I skip the step where I write out the letters. I just go minus 12.3 squared. And I take the first two, square them, and add them. Let me zoom into that. Right, and at the bottom I go 2 times 5.1 times 8.2. Then the next line, I'm just going to figure out what the top gives me. And the top, if I enter that correctly, I get negative 58.04. I'm very aware that there's a negative there. Okay, that's not just to be dismissed, right? So that's what you should be getting. And then I keep going. Cosine of x. If I divide that, I should be getting a negative 0 point something. If you don't get 0, you will get an error message. And I get something like this on my calculator. So please show what you get on top and the bottom. Show what you get when you divide it. Then the last step is to say angle x is cosine inverse of negative 0.6939 ... Angle x, I know it's going to be bigger than 90, right? Right? Okay. And that is 133.94. Sometimes it's slightly bigger than 90. Sometimes it's just like 90.34. It's still obtuse. Okay? So there we go. That's what you should be getting if you used all decimals. If you didn't get the exact same one, you're on the right track. I wouldn't worry too much about it, but you wouldn't be getting full marks. All right, switcheroo now. This is when I switch. I have a pair. I'm going to erase this because I need that space. Have a pair now. Right? Sine law. I am going to switch to sine law. You could use cosine law throughout the whole thing, but I'm going to switch to sine law now. So I'm going to say sine of 133.94 over 12.3, because that's the side across from it, is equal to. Which angle would you like to find next? It's up to you. At this point, I don't care. I'm going to go sine of, what does my key have? Y. I'm going to go sine of y. Okay? And y, right, is across from 8.2. So you got to make sure they're across each other. Sine of y is 8.2 times that. Please show your work. That is going to save you a lot of marks, because if you get it wrong and I don't have anything to go by, I don't know if you understand what needs to happen. If I see you understand but you made a mistake, then you don't lose as much. So next is angle y would be sine inverse of whatever I get here, which should start with a 0. If it doesn't, you made a mistake. Go back. Don't even call me, okay? I'll be busy. I'll say I can't help you, right? Not trying to be mean, just I can't help you. Y is 28.69 degrees. Now I have my second angle. You could go ahead and do cosine law for the third one, but that would be a lot of work. That is not needed. The third angle, which is Z, is simply 180 minus 133.94 minus 28.69. Z is, where are you here, 1737. And sometimes if you do it in a different order, you get a slightly different final answer, but that's not a big deal. Okay. So I've solved the triangle. I've solved all three angles. That's the only thing that I could solve for because I already knew the three sides. Now, I'm going to give you the answers for this one. Angle R is supposed to be 107.16 degrees. Angle S is supposed to be 30.64 degrees. And angle T is supposed to be 42.20 degrees. Again, if you like to stick with cosine law, do it, right? Like don't worry about it. I'm not going to make you ever pick one over the other. Like once you started solving. If you switch over, that's your choice. The only thing that I will tell you is that you can only start with one of them. You cannot start with both. You have your workbook on you. I want you to practice a little bit figuring out which one should I be using. So go to page 9 in that workbooklet. It looks like this. It has sine law at the front. So if you want to be prepared for tomorrow, tomorrow is our quiz, okay? No fighting. All right. Page 9. Page 9. So it looks like this. Law of sines and cosines review worksheet. Pay close attention. We're not done yet. I'm preparing you for tomorrow because I've been doing that, but maybe you're so focused on just cosine law right now. Which one would you have to start with here? Question 1. Why? Side. Okay. You are listening to me. My kids don't listen to me, but you listen to me, so I appreciate that. What about here? Side angle side, so it's cosine, right? Which you're gonna have on your study sheet, right? Okay. I'm just checking, right? If you're awake. I'm going to skip here. What about 6? Sine law? You have a pair, right? I don't have letters for it, so it's just a pair. There are letters for it, but I don't want to confuse you with it. Side angle, this one is, but whatever. Just focus on the pair. I won't ask you for letters, so you don't have to worry about it. So what about question? Yeah. Which one? Six. Say that again. Sorry. Yeah. If that had been A, if this had been up here, that's a good question. I'm looking. Yes, it would have been sine law, but it would be a hidden pair. I'm going to look for a hidden pair here somewhere. Don't have a hidden pair, I don't think. So Kim J is saying this. I now get it. Sorry, I'm a bit slow. Kim J is saying this. If you had a triangle, let's say this is ABC, and you had 32 centimeters here, and this is 45, and this is 79, right? Do you have a pair there? Not at first glance, but if you have two angles, you can find this one no problem. So it's still sine law, right? It's hidden pair. It's a hidden pair. So if you have more than one angle, guaranteed sine law, guaranteed, because you can find that third one and find your pair. The answers to these ones are at the back side, right? Just flip to the back side. They don't round to 2 decimals, so I'm gonna have a word with them. I'm just kidding. Like, they can do whatever they want, right? But it's gonna get you close enough. So if you need to practice before tomorrow, it's like, hey, if I didn't know what to use, which one would I use here? Can I do it with my study sheet, right? And any word problems will have a diagram, so you don't have to worry about the diagram not being there. You will get a diagram. Okay. Keep up with the attendance, folks, right? Be here. That's only you can do that part. I cannot attend for you, right? So keep that in mind.